everybody, welcome to The Index. I'm your host, Alex Kehaya, and today I'm excited to be joined by Misha, who is the co-founder of Symbiotic. It's a universal staking framework enabling decentralized networks to bootstrap powerful, fully sovereign ecosystems. Misha, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So before we get into what it is that you're doing in building, I would like to understand why you're doing it. What's getting you out of bed in the morning to work on Symbiotic, and sort of what's the genesis story behind the company and the project?
Yeah, I have a company that was founded before Symbiotic, and the mission of that was to try and help. The mission was around try and help crypto scale, because it was a research and security firm. We immediately identified that's not going to be a good business, because you're kind of limited, right? You get twice or thrice or 10 times bigger, and that's it. That's your global ceiling, because there isn't enough code happening, so we decided how do we improve that from our angle, from the angle of technical excellence and design and generally infrastructure. We try to help in every aspect of it. So we try to improve blockchains, compilers for different languages that we use. Say we found vulnerabilities in Viper that is used by tens of billions of dollars protocols. Every step of the way, from you starting to sending your transaction to an RPC node, from the way it's executed on executed and propagated throughout the network, and then gets to Explorer and exchange and everything like that. So and we try to optimize, because our resources were not infinite. So we started from saving protocols from actual hacks, and doing design audits and helping the tier 1 protocols reach the security level that they wanted to reach. We were quite successful with that, helped multiple blockchains and rollups, and maybe $20-something billion of TVL, secured them directly, each line of code. And after a while, we decided that we had some experience with Polkadot before, a lot of it actually, and we saw that Ethereum thesis was a general thesis was moving to modularity, and we decided that the demand is there finally, and we actually can optimize the hardest part of the journey for any decentralized network, the actual decentralization. We saw that a lot of networks were moving in the direction of being proof of authority, right? Because it was so much easier. We decided, how do we make decentralization optimized? How do we make it so the nature of crypto that was always unstoppability of it, right? We always operated in wake legal frameworks, and if there was a switch that some judge somewhere can push, or some politician might forbid, that the Bitcoin would have ended, and you and I would have some much different jobs.
Yeah.
But the unstoppable nature of it, the people, I figured, how do I turn it off? Can I write Amazon about it? No. Can I just find the person that's hosting it? No, there is not one person that's hosting it. So it took them a while to figure out how to even approach the regulations on that. And if we, in a search of few weeks, we lose that, it's first not safe to have a centralized network handling such money with within the framework of crypto, where you have tokens that are not gonna return ever, and no bank ever will issue transaction nullifying the transfer. Within that framework, it's really important that the secure nature of crypto stays the same, and we don't have SQLs just going around making transactions willy-nilly on their own accord, and censoring them as well. So yeah, the job was not to shit talk them on Twitter and make them like see the light of day, but actually make their life easier in the like doing the right thing.
Makes sense. Yeah. And so I'm curious, like I've been reading up on you guys, and you know, you call it universal staking, and there's a concept of restaking, which is sort of new. I mean, it's been around probably for a couple of years now, but you know, I feel like in the last 12 months really started to get a lot more attention. And restaking is just a framework for bringing the economic security of one network like Ethereum or say Solana, right? There's now some restaking stuff on Solana, to another network that maybe serves a different purpose. And the network consists of individual operators, right, that are operating servers that do a job using blockchain, right? I mean, you know, one, I just want to make sure I understand the concept correctly, and then I want to understand how universal staking is different than something like restaking. So you might have to explain restaking to me first.
Yeah, easy. Like people were mystifying that, like to get funded, but like it's actually not a really complicated. Like it starts not complicated. It might get somewhat complex at times, but like the simple explanation, like 1 minute take. There was a proof of work, right? You gate kept block building using computation. Super inefficient, really really easy to centralize, and but a really good concept to start from. Then like the industry decided that there is a better concept. It's called proof of stake, right? You set some money aside, and if you misbehave, if you like double sign or do something hurtful to the network, you get slashed. Your funds are gone, like you're not performing work anymore, and like you lost your money. So restaking is then we decided that like nobody, like most people don't want to operate nodes because it's kind of complex. And we came up to the concept that is used like for 99% of networks that are decentralized. It's called DPoS, delegated proof of stake. So you don't operate a node, you give your money to like some delegate that decides like where to put them, and it's actually operated by other folks. Here the concept is that you don't need to use the network's tokens for proof of stake. You can use like any tokens for proof of stake. It's really simple. Like after that, people ask me like, okay, like, yeah, that's not interesting. Like, what's even that, right? Like you probably could always use that, but no, like I actually couldn't before. Like that's where frameworks like us, like Eigenlayer and like Babylon comes in, because you need like a really interesting systems to utilize that. But like to answer my own like a question, because I got asked that so many times, like what's actually interesting in that? And the interesting part is that restaking is actually like gives you an ability to start testing traction in a decentralized and like secure way immediately. So you focus on your really small part of the equation, like your idea, the juice of it. When you like, what's the PMF for you? PMF should not be like, oh yeah, my block time is like this, and this, right? Like we're not in a place where you like Litecoin, Bitcoin battle, right? So the idea is that like Parachain has like unique characteristics, like with like proof of liquidity. Arbitrum has like the other implementation. Base is like uses like user base of like Coinbase, sorry, like the user base of Base. The job for us is to optimize it in a way that you can test your PMF faster. You don't have to like the journey of creating the token for your own network. It's kind of the long one, right? Like you need to get enough public support. You need to set up a foundation. You need like to go through a lot of like really complicated steps, and each step might be fatal for you if you like misjudge some.
I just want to lean into this a little bit for people who are not maybe listening and not worked in this industry before. Anytime you're building a network that serves some purpose. It has its own value proposition, right? And you're looking for product market fit. You're trying to see if your idea is going to be successful. If you're tokenizing it, and there's so much you have to build, right? Like, so you have to build liquidity for your token. You have to build the software that actually runs the network that the operators use to provide the service, the value prop to whoever it is you're trying to get to use the network. You have to create economic security. And that's kind of what the heart of what we're talking about. Economic security comes from the staking piece. And the challenge with that is if you have your own token and it has no liquidity and no market cap, where's the economic security? And so there are other tokens out there now, and this wasn't true before, but it is true today. There are other tokens like USDC, Tether. Those are stable coins. They're non-speculative. They've got billions of dollars in volume and assets on chain. And so you can now take any of those tokens that already have all the stuff figured out from an infrastructure standpoint around liquidity, around the economic value it creates. All those questions are answered. And so it is a secure asset to stake. It's a safe asset to stake with a value to it. And the value matters because there's something to lose if the operators and the people staking don't do a good job. So that's like what underpins the whole idea. And it's easy to talk about, like you and me, but it's hard to actually understand if you haven't been through this before, like how hard all those other moving parts are to get right. And I mean, there's countless tokens that have launched even in the last 2 months where they have just tanked in price. And the tech is totally good, probably. Mm-hmm. They might even get product market fit for the tech, but their economy is shot. And that's the thing about blockchains and crypto is that there is an economy. These blockchains are economic systems. And so it's more than just a business, right? It's an entire economy with different stakeholders, different people using it. And so you got to figure out a way to inject some kind of economic security into that economy for people to even entertain using it. And so that's where restaking comes in. And then I would love to understand, what's the difference between the restaking model and universal staking. It sounds like there's some nuance there, and I'd love to understand how that, how your technology is different.
Yeah, no, we started this shared security, right? Like one primitive of it was restaking, right? The basic primitive of everything, because you got your chance to test out ideas faster, safer, and in a more streamlined manner. What we do right now by expanding the narrative to staking in general, because we did around 1,000, maybe probably more custom interviews with different protocols and identified the need for the market, and a lot of them asked us do we actually need restaking? Can we use your you have such a wonderful software? It's permissionless, and we are permissionless from the start. So there is no graduation problem. There is no vendor lock available and everything like that. You can just use it. It's like Linux. Can we use it for staking? Because we don't actually have the need for Ethereum. We have billions of dollars of our own token. But for us, because we are moving to staking, we're moving to decentralization, it's really important that we have a good code base for that. We don't and we don't have to spend years developing that. So that's why we usually try to move move narrative not because of the marketing side, but because of the actual usability side. I try to optimize my calls as much as possible, so I don't have to explain the same stuff again and again. That's the goal of the narrative. For me, the getting exciting part is secondary to that. The other interesting part is that we wanted to move to universal proof of stake, right? But like it was even more than that. The expansion that was needed. So our infrastructure is really customizable. So a lot of protocols asked us like, can we actually we don't need operators. So it's not direct proof of stake, but we need it for insurance, or as like a really customizable collateral that might go other way or have like really complex liquidation mechanisms. And yeah, like you can do that, like you can pick and choose parts of it, because like restaking in its core and like the shared security in its core is just like user, so staker, the staker, delegator, operator, and network. So if you change the network to say like insurance tranche, then like you don't need operators, but the whole infrastructure piece still works, because there is like an unlikely event that protocol is getting hacked. It's verified somewhere on chain that it got hacked, like variables, like invariants are not adding up together. Somebody like gave you like $1 and like took like billions of dollars of ETVL. And you need to pay like the protocol out and users out because like the insurance incident happened. It's really close to how slashing actually looks like. So we saw like, yeah, we built a really, like that's a problem when you build a really customizable solutions. The outcomes are sometimes like they surprise you as well. We were kind of thinking of them, but we're really surprised how many people asked us about like, can we use like your solution for not like the restaking part and even not say decentralized network, but like something like that actually like semi-centralized, but more like finance based. And that's why like the expansion, like we never like actually like told people that much that we are like purely restaking, but the staking part, yeah, it's like much wider than that. So we have like the subset of restaking and like staking that is like much bigger, which is like staking is a primitive that basically won in our like systems right now. Like,
so it's interesting. Better. So yeah, so you're not just using it to bootstrap networks, but also insurance or collateral and sort of, because it's not really, collateral is not the right word, because it could be a lending platform that also has insurance, right? It has some kind of insurance, and this is basically the protocol that ensures there's enough TVL in the insurance pool and that it gets triggered out automatically if there's a problem. And is it, I saw that mainnet is live for you guys. Are you running all of this on your own chain and then the other chains kind of send calls to it? And that's how it works, or because it's modular, right? It can compose with other networks and stuff like that. You don't have to be.
Yeah, we have around the current contracts are based on Ethereum because it's the best coordination level layer, and like for the staking part, we don't need it to be quick, right? Because staking actually has like an epoch that is like really, really long. You don't have, it's usually days long. So it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be cheap, because you don't do a lot of on-chain actions. That's why we chose Ethereum, because it's just the best overall liquidity aggregation layer right now for our purposes. But yeah, how our system is designed, it can be on any chain. They're all gonna be connected, because it's not like DEX, right, where you need atomic transactions if you're deployed to utilize liquidity and not fracture it. We actually can have all of the liquidity in different setups for different networks. We just started from the most modular place, right? Ethereum is kind of lost a bit exactly because they fractured a lot. We have multiple, a lot of liquidity centers, a lot of centers for user base that are somewhat connected. So yeah, you actually and we have we launched 1.5 months ago. We now have around 14 networks live.
Wow.
Well, I'm super excited for that. It's early days still. We need to optimize a lot, but yeah, the first wave was really interesting. a lot of primitives, like we have data availability networks launched on us, and pre-confirmation networks, so like some fast finality coming online, coprocessors and bridges.
Interesting. I'm curious if you can give me an example of maybe a bridge or a different network, because we talked about like a DeFi use case, or even somewhat decentralized, use case for a financial primitive that isn't a network. But I would love to hear an example of a network, like one of the users, and the specifics around their economics and staking. How much do they have staked on their network through you guys, and what are the slashing requirements, or how do operators get punished? Like, just walk me through an actual example with somebody who's live on it today.
Yeah. So the numbers are going to be kind of like hit or miss, because Ethereum price is like volatile in the recent days. But like per network security, we have at this point of around like from 100 to 300 mil, as the last time I was updated on that. Say we have a pre-confirmation network. What it does is basically create UX for users to immediately get confirmations that like their transaction is going to be included in the next block, right? Way earlier. So you have an entity, usually it's a validator that like is responsible, proposer that is responsible of creating next or like the block after that, and it basically issues your confirmation. Like, it's not yet, like Ethereum is kind of slow, but within like some period, within like 1 or 2 blocks, when my time comes, like your transaction is definitely going to be there. And you basically can do like arbitrage between different chains, or like do some really complex trading using that. But like if you have this sort of confirmation, and if like your transaction was not actually included, you can slash them.
I'm another question. I have 2 questions. One, how does the Symbiotic protocol make money, and or like accrue value? And then my other question is about operators, but I'll hold on to that one. I'll wait till you answer the first one.
Yeah. Well, we are not currently like that's a stage thing. We have a lot of ideas of how to utilize that, but again, shared security, especially on Ethereum, is kind of new, right? Like we came online a month and a half ago. That's the first iteration of what we do. Our competitors are, like EigenLayer came online with like semi-full functionality, like maybe less than a week ago. It's in our view, it's like way too early to put ads on Facebook yet. Like, we need to see where it goes. The job for us was to like just create like a really interesting and all-encompassing menu of options for each network, like an SDKs that are useful enough for that. In my view, the core should be always permissionless and free. That's the idea. Like, we are kind of copying Linux here.
I love that model.
Again, early days. If possible, I would stick to that. Immutable core, permissionless core that's not able, like a version now, like it's not like you need to opt in and to upgrade as a network. So you can use this functionality forever. That's not like changing. There is no technical possibility for us to change that. But like I wouldn't. There might be a version 2 where there is actually like functionality boost that we expect to have, and that might be like part of it might be like not like fee based, or like we have our other ideas on that. But again, like let's get like hundreds of network first. And I think the value capture for us as a protocol would be like just standing in like this information flow of things that people want.
But I mean, the operators on your network, you have your own mainnet, right? And there are operators running the network there for you, right?
No.
Or is it just on? It's just on mainnet Ethereum. It's just on mainnet Ethereum. So people just pay in ETH for using the contracts whenever there's a need for a transaction, right? So okay, so really the only the economics of the other networks that have integrated with you, the 14 or so, that's where like operators who are incentivized to operate whatever infrastructure they need to operate for that network. But that comes from their economics, not from your economics. Like you don't have like a flow of transaction fees coming to incentivize people to run nodes on your own network. That's not how your thing works because it's on.
No, like you just pay
mainnet.
Ethereum. Yeah, you just pay Ethereum on top of that. We don't have our own nodes because we don't need that. Like we're using infrastructure of Ethereum.
Got it.
Like for each network, they have their own validator set. Because some of them, like say pre-confirmations, need like hundreds of thousands of validators. For say like other networks is like 10 at most. And like each one of them, like we help them select validators that like they usually top tier that are like perfect for their use case because they're not kind of the same. Let's say like the ZK node is completely different, right? Like the ZK coprocessor node is completely different to say Oracle, right? In one case, like you need like really good placement. In another place, you need like 1,000 GPUs.
Well, I love the open source route. I don't think there's anything wrong with charging a fee, taking a percentage through the contracts, a small fee, and that can scale huge, down the road. That can get to be very big amounts of revenue for your ecosystem. So there's no problem that I think being open source and just capturing a little bit of ETH every once in a while is not a big deal. Totally reasonable way to do it because you gotta fund the open source software development at the end of the day, right? Got to pay the engineers long term.
Yeah, like we have funding. Like we just closed the round. I'm not sure if you heard, but
tell me about that. I did see something about that. 29 million. Congrats, huge. That's a big round.
Thank you.
That's a Series A.
Yeah. Well, like we just recently had like a seed, so it's not usual Series A. It's like pre-A, something like that. Mostly, like, but people are excited. We have things to pay engineers. We try to be frugal with how we spend, so we still have like seed money available to us. It was just like make sure that the infrastructure part here is that like it takes time, a lot of it. So the first version is like bare bones. You can use that, you will get a big uplift, but like for us to create a turnkey solution that's actually safe and you don't have to onboard like really scary security assumptions. It'll take some time. I'm pretty upfront with everyone on that.
Sounds
like,
about right. That's how it always is.
Yeah, hype is good, but like the important here is that like we have a long journey in front of us, but like we already see results. That's why I don't want to like scare people away with fees of any sort for now, but like to actually move faster because the initial phase is really important.
Yeah.
We are not working with some insignificant part of the protocols. We are working with consensus. Right, like with the most basic part, like the most basis part of like each network. So it's really important that people feel safe and the founders feel safe when they choose us. Like not gonna like implement like 50% like fee, not gonna like roll them or vendor lock them in any way.
Yeah, well, it's open source software, so right?
It's like
they're totally protected. I mean, that's the ultimate, I think, control that a founder could ask for is that they're using open source software. So if they need to fork it and do something different down the road, then you're good to go. So we're almost at the top of the show here. I just want to ask you quickly, what have I not asked you that I should have asked?
I don't know, like we covered like the brunt of it. Yeah, like nature of open source. Sort of like I want to like expand on this a bit, just a tiny bit. Nature of open source software for crypto is kind of different. Like we saw this with Uniswap, right? Like they had the open source software. They started and they immediately got vampired like by a lot of protocols that were trying to capture the idea. They forked immediately. But because like and it's not as easy as you can fork like everything that is like available to you. The hard part here is that first you don't actually like it's going to be harder for you to acquire like get money into that, because people are hesitant to deposit into forks that are like not as like reputational as the original company that developed it. So the gatekeeping is like available to protocols here, even the like the open source and licensed ones. So yeah, like again, like the job was to like eliminate as much of like friction points as possible, because we have like this notion that in crypto that you have to build your own stack almost from the ground up, right? That's how like it's done for protocols that are getting funded a lot and people are talking about and everything like that. And it's kind of worked for a while, but now the thesis that we are trying to push is that you don't have to, like it's a huge waste of resources on everyone's part. Like we need to experiment more, because like classical finance are like somewhat catching up, and that's not how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to work like in complete opposite manner, because we like the speed of innovation and experiments should be higher in our parts of the woods, because you don't have to like spend some money on the infrastructure that's like usually not available outside of crypto, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a super important point to make. You don't need to keep reinventing the wheel. And I went through this when early days building on Solana, where we had to invent things like indexers that didn't exist and spent enormous amount of resources on that, and now that's not as big of a problem. There's a lot of different indexing solutions out there. But I also want to double tap on your point about open source, the nature of open source. Yeah, Uniswap definitely had the vampire attacks early on. And I think in their situation, it was maybe a little bit easier just because the kind of application they had and the service they provided to do that. I also think that was really early days of DeFi, and people were just YOLOing into these new forks to farm, to yield farm. I mean, I remember I was here when that was happening, and it was totally insecure and totally sketchy, and enough people got rugged that at the end of the day, they probably stopped doing it, the educated folks anyway, at least not as much. And I think in your case, when you're talking about infrastructure, universal staking that then bootstraps the economic security of physical infrastructure and networks that have tokens, now you're getting into the place where the moat isn't the software, it's the network. It's the network effects. And this is actually the thing that open source has a superpower for, is creating network effects. And so if you're not building open source and you're trying to do these things that require a network with network effects, you're basically fighting with your hands tied behind your back. And I think that's a thing that people miss a lot because they don't understand why open source is important. I understand it because my business partner is this guy, Brian Fox, who wrote Bash back in the 80s and co-authored the GPL licenses. So like I've gotten this, deep history through him of the open source movement and how the internet was built. Like your thing about Linux really speaks to me. I believe in that. I think Linux, it started out as, a few dozen people, really just Linus Torvald, but then like a few dozen people that were hacking for each other back in the 80s, right? And they're like at MIT's AI lab, at Stanford, at CMU. And then fast forward to today, and Linux, which came out of that ecosystem of people who are just building open source software for each other, Linux has created probably trillions of dollars in value, economic value. And that's the thing about open source that gets me out of it. That's why I believe in just building open source together, because you just don't know where it's going to take you. And I tell this story all the time, but Bash went to Mars. It literally powers the quadcopter on Mars. And I think this is what we can do for finance. I think this is what we can do for a lot of different things with with blockchain technology. And like Helium is another one that I think is like a really great example, right? Helium is now the backbone provider for like a number of publicly traded major telecoms, that has been the vision, that's been a dream for a long time, and it's happening now. And I don't know how far that will go. Like that technology could go places way beyond that, I bet, and have all sorts of use cases. So anyway, I love that you're as much of an open source zealot as I am. We can be friends for sure. And thanks for coming on this show. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.